IVM.
$100. That's all it takes to begin your journey with Bitcoin and Ethereum. No, really. With CoinSwitch, you can start investing in over 100 cryptocurrencies with just 100 rupees. On top of that, there are zero charges for deposits and withdrawals, so you can trade, buy, sell, however and whenever you want. All of this, plus their extremely intuitive interface, makes CoinSwitch the perfect app for beginners in the crypto space. But don't take my word for it. Just download CoinSwitch for free and try it out for yourself. If you'd like more information on cryptocurrencies, tune into A Show About Crypto with me, Rohan Joshi, my new adventure on IVM Podcasts. CoinSwitch, kuch to badlega.
Here's your smart fact of the day. Behavioral design is a subcategory of design which is concerned with how design can shape and be used to influence human behavior. All approaches of design for behavior change acknowledge that artifacts have an important influence on human behavior and behavioral decisions. So therefore, that brings me to the topic of the day on Smarter With Sid. Welcome. Can change at an individual level, let's forget the organizational level for a while, can change be brought about from a design perspective, which is a top-down perspective, or can change be brought about only by motivation and strength of resolve and free will, which is a bottom-up perspective? Let's try to solve this one. Let me explain the problem a little bit more. Whenever we are trying to change our behavior, whether, our organization wants it or whether our family wants it or whether we ourselves decide, okay, I need to change something about myself in order to have a better life. There are typically, two approaches that you can use. The first approach is that how can I change my context? How can I change my context in which I live in or in which I'm going to actually be in order for me to actually find this change easy, and therefore, I can get on with it at least effort and with minimum problems, and so I can stick with it, etc. A great example of this could be to keep your running shoes next to your bed, which is a designed change. So you've kept your running shoes next to your bed so that when you get up, you have no excuse not to start running because that is your New Year resolution. So that is a great example of top-down change, and that is a top-down change because you've designed the context so that behavioral changes can happen, and they can happen in a manner that, is easy. It just forces you into a system. And if I have to build that analogy a little more, it works even better when, you go into a gym, you see other people work out, etc. I'm not making this only about workouts. You can look at, actual changes such as quitting smoking, or it can be about starting a new reading habit. If you keep a book next to your pillow, every time you are going to hit the bed, you can actually start reading that book just before you close your. So you get the point. If you make those design-oriented changes in the context that you're inhabiting, perhaps it is a great way. So that is one camp that we are talking about. And that believes in the fact that human beings are not necessarily very responsive to change, very adaptive to change, and that change must be kind of induced by the context. And there is a huge amount of, behavioral science and behavioral economics that has gone into this field. Great books like Nudge have come out of, Richard Thaler's head, probably won him the Nobel Prize, which have kind of focused on changing a system and processes in order for behavioral change to happen. Now, that's one camp. The second camp is any change cannot be forced down by a system. So just because somebody is saying that, wear a mask, I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm going to wear a mask because I believe in wearing a mask. And now that is a very different perspective. So that totally focuses on the fact that you have motivation, drive, the free will, the strength, the resolve, whatever you want to call it, and you want to change from a very deep level. And that is why you will make sure that you change and you will stick to it, and you will kind of change the thing. And yes, you might be using a few new things, or few like new shoes or whatever you want to call it, but you're not going to pay too much attention to the context, because you want to actually keep yourself away from being too dependent upon contextual changes. And you're going to say, no matter what, even if my shoes are not next to the bed, I am going to run, because that's who I am. I am a runner, and I'm not going to smoke even if there is a packet of cigarettes that my partner smokes, because I am a non-smoker. I am not somebody who consumes nicotine. So that is the bottom-up change management, which is not dependent upon the way in which the context is. And that has a lot of advantages too. So you see the point. There are two camps. The two camps exist, and you can see the advantages and disadvantages of both camps. The advantages of camp number 2 are the fact that the responsibility of changing comes down to you, and it connects at a deeper level. It becomes part of your identity. In fact, I was reading a book called Atomic Habits, which is written by a guy called James Clear, and he was looking at making tiny changes that give you remarkable results. I mean, that is what the book blurb says. And a lot of it is about designing change. So there is a top-down approach, but a lot of it also focuses on the fact that your identity needs to change if you want to make a change. So that is the bottom-up approach. So which of these approaches wins? What do you feel? Which approach wins? Does the top-down approach, gain precedence? I'm trying to tease this out, and the most important thing that I realized when I was trying to tease this out is this: the next time when you're trying to have some kind of change built into you, first of all, figure out that you're human. You're not going to suddenly become superhuman like Superman and suddenly have a very completely different way of living life. But let's imagine that you're trying to make a small change in your life. Ask yourself, when was the last time you have changed? And what made that change successful? Was it because your context changed, or was it because you were convinced that you were not that person anymore and so you needed to change? Now, therein, you'll have your biggest clue. If you ask yourself and the answer is, okay, I shifted the cities and that's when I quit smoking, for example. Or, New Year's, I just realized that, my sister had a problem with asthma, and that's when I said, I am not a smoker, or something of that sort. The fact is that if it's part of your personal identity and then you have changed, then that's your success path. If it is part of your change because of the context changing, then the top down is your success path. And so therefore, my strong belief is that it is based upon our personality. So I guess knowing thyself, as they say, knowing yourself and your personality and your quirks and your traits, and accepting who you are completely as a human being and understanding what works for you is the first step. And then deciding what kind of change management system you want to use. Is it the bottom-up thing or the top-down thing? Now, for example, whenever we even look at organizations and we ask ourselves, okay, how did IBM change, or, all those things? Did it change because the leader of IBM decided to have a bottom-up change of identity and therefore got the entire organization to change? Or was it because, there was a design change that people could follow with least effort? Now, normally the answer is a mix of both in any organization, because obviously any organization is a mixture of personalities. But thankfully, we are hopefully not a mixture of personalities all the time, and we have a fair degree of consistency and integrity. So a simple question about what do we think will work for me is very important, because a lot of times we get into change without really knowing how we change best. And I think once we understand that, change management at an individual level becomes way more tolerable and way easier. If you're somebody of strong resolve and identity, I think that's your path, the bottom up. If you're basically somebody who's waiting for the context to give cues, well, top down, that's your path. I hope you liked this particular episode of Smarter with Sid. Idea is to get 1% smarter. The idea is also to share a slightly introspective episode on a Thursday and a slightly external market-facing episode on a Tuesday, because I think that will go with our rhythms of the week. And do give me your feedback. Do let me know how you think I should be, what topics I should be covering and all of that. I'm there on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'm the traveling professor for all those who may not know of my, avatar, my digital avatar over there. And until next week then, my friends, until next week, let's get 1% smarter.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Agla Station Adulthood, Ritasha and Ayushi are in conversation with journalist Pallavi Iyer. They talk about her having lived in so many different cities, adulting through it all, and what motherhood means to her and how young folk can lead better lives and support the nation's progress. On Smarter with Sid, Siddharth asks if energy management is just a better way of time management. Tune in to find out if this is practical and possible. On Khel Niti, Rajiv Mishra, Ayaz Memon and Sabah Karim talk about Team India's elimination from the T20 World Cup, Pakistan's new team, and New Zealand stepping into the semi-finals. On Smile India, Shifa discusses a Kolkata-based NGO that's trying to help single-screen cinema survive. And on Hansvani, hear the story Mere Liye Ek Minute and find out why a depressed man mourns his own death by observing silence for a whole minute. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And do follow us on YouTube. We have a number of different channels. You can find them on ivmpodcast.com/YouTube, where you'll be able to take a look at all of the channels we have. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week: Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch, Kuber, Slay Coffee, Intel, and Oxfam India. Thank you so much. You make this possible.
Habits? Routines? How exactly do they help us get better? Well, to simplify it for you, tune in to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashton Doctor, and I'm going to be here to help you get better daily with some simple, easy-to-do habits that you can easily adapt to your life. So tune in to the Habit Coach podcast from Monday to Friday, because I believe that awesome lives start with awesome habits.